So hi there, welcome to Cocktail Mode, the podcast where me, Andy, and my mate Dave talk about a classic video game. This week we're doing Batman, ostensibly Batman, the movie, the video game, but also other games that fit into our version of retro, and more of that after this little sting thing. The reason I wanted to do Batman was because when Arkham Asylum came out, there was a lot of noise, a lot of press. You can still find it in a lot of websites. There's a lot of websites archive everything. You know, finally a good Batman game. And I just wanted to do Batman in our version of retro, which is, we class retro as anything that was released on a console that was released before the year 2000. So the upper limits of that are the Game Boy Color and the Dreamcast, which were both released in 1999. And PC games that were released before the year 2000, because obviously PC doesn't have a hardware barrier anywhere. According to the general games press and the noise around Arkham Asylum when it came out, which we need to make a point, is a very, very, very good game.
I'm glad you said that, because it saves me having to argue about it. If
anyone has listened to reviews, everyone know my distaste for Gen 7. Is well documented. It's a fantastic game. And Arkham City is almost as good, not quite as good, but it's almost as good. And then Arkham Knight was a big pile of shit, but let's not talk about that. But when those games came around, because they were so good, it wasn't just these are the best Batman games. It was these are the first good Batman game. And so the reason we're doing Batman in broad terms, but Batman the movie, the game, as our specific seed, if you like, our catalyst, is to disprove that theory.
I like Batman, the movie, the game, to give it its proper title.
Well, interestingly, the NES and Game Boy versions are called Batman the video game.
There's like 20 games that are just called Batman.
Yeah.
On various systems.
So actually the last thing I did before we come on air was tot up the amount of Batman games that fit in our version of classic or retro, when you call it. And it's 18 if you don't include, there's a digital comic and some educational thing. So 18. I bet there are more after. I didn't count that up.
I would imagine so, because the list I've been looking at is something like 49, 50 games at least. Yeah, I think that's limited to 50.
I think that from 2000 until Arkham Asylum came out, I think that's when the majority of these shit games came out. The 20th century games are mostly, at least okay. And some of them fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it's really the early 21st century, the PS2, GameCube games that are the shit ones. But we're not going to talk about those.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there is a lot to be said for Arkham Asylum because it did re-energize the games as a whole, because there hadn't been a good one for a very long time. I've not played 90% of the games on these lists, but I've watched a few videos of every Batman game ever made.
Oh, wow.
Before Arkham Asylum, there's not a good one to be seen for a very long time.
Did Batman the Brave and the Bold, was that before Arkham?
That was 2010. It came out after Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum was 2009.
Yeah, because Batman the Brave and the Bold is a very good game.
Yeah, that looked quite good. I did like looking at that.
It's made by Way Forward. They're one of those companies that sort of, are they indie or aren't they? They're quite a big company, but they're run by, it's a small team and they're on that borderline. Batman the Brave and the Bold features lots of other DC superheroes.
Yeah.
But it's basically a side-scrolling brawler featuring Batman, cartoon style, made by the guys at Way Forward. They did the Shantae games, for anybody that knows the fantastic Shantae games. It's really, really good. It's really, really stylish. So I always remember there's a Catwoman level. You're fighting, you're basically going side to side along this level, beating things up. And she comes into the foreground and she's sort of sat on a lamppost or something right at the front of the screen in the very foreground whilst you're fighting away in the background. And it's full of really cool little touches like that. It's a very smart game, very clever. But yes, we can't talk about it because it's 2010, which is way over our line by a decade. But yeah, I think you're right. I think prior to 2009, you think we're basically talking about 10 years, 2000 to 2009, of probably, I can't say I've played any of them, but probably terrible video games.
I think the main problem looking at these lists is they're awful movie games based on awful movies. So, other than the obvious animated series, which was really, really good, the 90s weren't kind to Batman. After Batman Returns, which was kind of the last hurrah.
Yeah, I mean, Even Batman Returns it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? It's an enjoyable film, but I think you've got to be almost in on the joke a little bit to enjoy it, because it's not as good as Batman.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, you're right. I just want to mention, I think it's Batman Forever. I think it's a side-scrolling brawler, but because it was from 1995, was digitized graphics.
Yeah.
And it's one of the ugliest video games I've ever seen in my life.
I managed to play on MAME about 30 seconds of it, and I had to turn it off. It was awful.
Fair play to you, because I didn't even play it. I just looked at a video, and it just looks horrifically bad.
It is. Have I told you what Tommy Lee Jones said to Jim Carrey when they were making that film?
No, not sold me that, Dave.
There's a moment, apparently, when Jim Carrey was working on it, where he got the impression that Tommy Lee Jones hated him. So he sort of basically said, is there some sort of problem between me and you? And Tommy Lee Jones apparently just sort of sighed, looked at him and went, I cannot condone your buffoonery. Probably never even met him before and he hated him.
I fucking love Tommy Lee Jones. Apparently at that point in his career, Jim Carrey used to do a take of a scene and then pretty much demand to be shown it back so that he could look at his performance and decide what he wanted to change about.
Jesus.
So let's start this, actually, by telling me what you think of Batman the movie.
Batman the movie, the game, or Batman the movie, the movie?
Batman the movie, the movie.
And which Batman the movie, the movie?
Well,
because the 60s one is Batman the movie, technically.
Which is also brilliant.
I'm not sure brilliant is the word I would use.
It is.
I know you've got a massive soft spot for the old Batman series, haven't you?
I love it. I mean, obviously, you can't love it not ironically, but I don't think I love it as ironically as other people. I think it's genuinely great.
Yeah.
The first season in particular, it's so funny. And Julie Newmar as Catwoman was, to coin a phrase, formative. Julie Newmar as Catwoman made an impression on me. She like sick every day, wasn't it, on telly, on Channel 4? And this was 30 years after the event as well, because it's obviously I wasn't alive in the 60s, unfortunately. I just love it. It's so funny, and I don't see how people didn't realise it was funny.
Yeah, it is great. I've got very fond memories of it.
Yeah.
More as a kid watching it for the first time than an adult rewatching it. I have rewatched it as an adult, but it's like, I don't know, it's like rewatching DuckTales or something like that. You think, I used to love this when I was a kid. Oh, it's not so good now, though.
I'm both. I watched it, like you, I remember growing up and it being on all the time. It was one of those shows that was just on repeat all the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then watching it with a bit more awareness and that whole thing of being in on the joke.
A bit more understanding of what's going on.
In the 90s, when it was that 6 o'clock slot on TV, when TV had time slots. Remember those days?
Yeah.
Yeah, that 6 o'clock slot, there was Batman, there was The Simpsons that was on at that time as well.
Star Treks.
Yeah.
Various Star Treks. So to go back to your original question, what do I think of Batman the movie? The movie.
1989, Tim Burton, Batman the movie.
I love it. I think it's a great film. Really enjoyed it when it first came out. It really kick-started the whole comic book film thing. But also as well, it massively reinvigorated Batman. I remember when I was about 11 or so, I've got a cousin who lives in America, and he came over, and me and my mates sat in the garden doing whatever we were doing. I can't remember what it was. And he came into the garden. And I was like, it's Cousin Joel from America. Why is he wearing a Batman t-shirt? What's that crap all about? Obviously, this is back in the time, like late 80s, early 90s. Films used to come out in the States about 3 years before they came out over here, didn't they?
Yeah.
Literally, it would be years before we even heard of a film. And you didn't see trailers until you went to a cinema. It wasn't like, it wasn't everywhere like it is now. Everybody knows every film that's coming out before it's coming out.
Yeah.
And they come out worldwide on the same day.
Sorry, just to interrupt you a little bit. I think there's somebody said maybe it was our, I don't know, social standing, our class or something. But to me, films were mostly something I watched on video.
Yeah.
Rather than went to the cinema to see.
Yeah.
And which is another couple of years after they originally came out as well.
Yeah, and you'd see adverts for films you'd never heard of on the videos as well. Especially rentals.
Yeah, the craziest shit.
Terrible adverts for terrible films that no one ever watched. But no, I remember at the time thinking, why the hell is he wearing a Batman t-shirt? And I said to him, why are you wearing a Batman t-shirt? That's, nobody's into that sort of stuff anymore. It's like, oh no, it's a new film. So, oh, okay. And then after that, you started to hear the rumbling.
Yeah.
You started to get the cash-ins, the tie-ins, the products, the crap.
One of the biggest ever, apparently, at the time.
But the thing is, I remember by the time it actually came around to going to see it, which I did, I saw it. It was the last film I ever saw at the old Bedford Cinema, the Granada.
The Granada.
As far as I'm aware, it was either that or Ghostbusters 2. It was one of the two.
Just to give you our listeners an impression of how old school the Granada was, you could basically break in the fire escape and watch anything you wanted for free.
Yeah, it was an old 1920s theatre when it was built, and it was at one point the largest cinema screen in Europe.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I never knew that.
It was an important building. It should have been listed. It should never have ended up being torn down and turned into a Lidl.
Well, was it even torn down, or was it just turned? No, it was. It
was demolished. It was demolished. It sat as a car park for about 5 years, and then they built a Lidl on it.
Fucking Lidl. Unbelievable. Of all the things.
Yeah. But no, I remember being blown away by it. Absolutely loved the film. It was the first ever 12 certificate film.
Yes, it really was.
In the cinema. Do you know what certificate it was on video?
15.
Because it didn't have 12 as a video certificate.
Yeah.
That's one of those great quiz questions that I'll never forget. For some reason, it's always stuck. But no, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It did very quickly become the merchandise machine.
Yes.
I've really, really gone off Batman over the years, more and more and more, as more and more and more things just have a Batman logo shoved on them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can buy Batman condoms and Batman tampons. If you can buy it, it's got a Batman logo on it.
I want to see that. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think it was because it was gold and black, wasn't it? Whereas the old TV show was yellow and black. It was gold and black, and that was the theme, really, the color palette of the Batman merchandise, and it was everything. There were toys that had no bearing on the film at all, aimed at children who shouldn't have been able to see it, even if it was a 12.
Yeah.
It was an absolute machine of merchandise.
Instantly as well. It was almost an overnight thing, and it's only got worse.
But I think there's two reasons, particularly for Batman 89, for that. One is that the quality of the graphic design for everything, and it was brilliant.
Oh yeah,
like just that very simple. It was just a logo. That's what you saw originally. Just that logo in those colours. It was so different and so much more sort of grown up. I don't think we've got a lot of listeners from outside the UK. But in case there's anybody, Batman was basically that old TV show and nothing else.
Yeah. No one read the comic.
No one read comics. No one read comics in the UK until the 90s, I'm sure of it. I mean, saying no one, obviously there are pockets of people who did.
Yeah.
But comics and comic shops and the existence of comics as something other than the Dandy and the Beano didn't really exist until the 90s. And so the Batman was that old TV show, and that was it. And that was it. That even, certainly for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, I didn't even realise that TV show was based on a comic.
Yeah.
It was just, that's the TV show. It's a silly bloke in his silly mask and his mate.
Yeah. You almost thought it was a sort of pastiche of a comic book character, didn't you? You didn't realise where it came from and
absolutely
what the origin was.
No idea. And, a lot of people too young to even think in those terms. But yeah, that's the thing. And then Batman comes on with a very, 80s attitude, 80s, 90s attitude to marketing and the brand and getting it out there. And it was, as you say, Dave, it was on absolutely fucking everything.
Yeah.
And it was everywhere.
And still is.
And yeah, when it has started that.
It's never ended and never will.
Probably not. that film was huge.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever's listening, whatever the biggest film release you can remember in your lifetime, even a big film, whether that's Avengers, whatever the biggest film release you can think of is Batman was bigger. It was huge. It was such a big deal.
Yeah.
The marketing and all that to go along with it was because they knew it would sell, because it was so huge. Money goes to money, doesn't it? And it's and it is a shame. And I get why you don't like that, Dave, but it doesn't affect the quality of the film, does it?
Oh no, not at all. I still love the film. I'll still happily sit and watch it, Batman and Batman Returns. But yeah, what it's become as a thing, I just despise. I really do.
I don't know if it was the different approaches to the two universes in terms of film. See, when the Marvel films started, it's a very UK thing. I'd never heard of Iron Man before the film came out.
I'd heard of Iron Man. I hadn't ever read a comic.
Yeah.
And other than possibly being a guest on like the Spider-Man cartoon, had never appeared in anything I'd ever seen. Oh, tell a lie. There was a good Avengers arcade game that he was in the early 90s.
A scrolling one.
Yeah. It's like Spider-Man and the Avengers.
Well, because we had the cartoon, didn't we? The Adventures of Spidey and Friends, the cartoon, which is very much the Iceman and Spider-Man show, really.
Yeah, very much a cartoon.
Yes.
Not an animated show like you get today, where it's enjoyed by adults as well. This was just a cartoon.
I should say I'm 100% with you. I adore Batman to the point where I think it's the best Batman anything that's ever been made. I think it's better than all the games. I think it's better than all the cartoons, all the TV shows. I think Batman 89 I think it's just brilliant. And part of the reason it's brilliant is because it is completely self-contained. It doesn't set itself up for a sequel, even though it got 22 of the fucking things. It doesn't exist beyond its own version of that story, with Jack Napier becoming the Joker. There's no other version of that as far as I'm aware. I'm not an expert, so...
No, that's never been his origin, apparently.
No. And I love it. And, you know, as much as I think Tim Burton can be a bit hackneyed at times, I think it's Tim Burton at his best.
Oh, it's his prime.
Yeah.
That's literally his peak.
And even, you know, the whole two sides of the same coin thing, it's not exactly original, but it works so well for that story. You know, that whole you created me first thing.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's an interesting thing for me is, I mean, to go along with what you're saying about the marketing, my first knowledge of Batman as a thing was the Prince music video for
Bat Dance or Bat Dance.
And what a soundtrack. And it's such a weird thing for Prince to do. And I think it kind of, again, for a lot of people, certainly for me, people's sort of first introduction to Prince, not representative of Prince as an artist, even though it's a great soundtrack. Prince is a very unusual artist. You know, more akin to David Bowie than whatever Batman might have led you to believe he was. But still a fucking great soundtrack.
It was very good.
But yeah, that was the first one. I remember being in... Do you know, I don't even know where it was. I was out somewhere and it was on the telly in this place I was, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And that was my first knowledge that Batman was coming. And I often wonder. I know American people both in real life or on the internet, and I've never asked them. I'll ask them after this because I pimped this podcast out on all sorts of channels.
Yeah,
and because my assumption is that everyone in America, Batman was a cultural thing outside of the film and the TV show. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that it's quite niche. It was quite niche.
I don't know, because the comparison that I always think of is it's similar to Star Wars in that you had the 3 Star Wars films and then you had a massive, massive gap. But the gap between the Batman series and the relative success obviously is less. I mean, Batman the TV series was one of the most popular TV shows of its time.
Yeah.
It had higher viewer figures than like nearly everything else. So it was hugely successful. And it only ran for what? 2 seasons? 3 seasons?
2 seasons, yeah. The first season, and it's very, very different, and you can tell as well that the quality is different. I think the reason it ran for 2 days, the second season isn't anywhere near as good.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it loses sight of what it's trying to do. Is that first season is very tongue-in-cheek, very much knows its own joke. Adam West is, you know, clearly repeating lines he was told about 5 minutes before. It's not as good, as great as Eartha Kitt is as Catwoman. She's not as formative as Julie Newmar, but she is fantastic in that role.
What's your opinion on Lee Merriweather?
Oh, she's basically a budget Julie Newmar.
But yeah, going back to my point, the massive gap between the original source, well, what we thought was the original source, the TV series and the movie, nothing had come out in that time ever. So like you got something like Star Trek, which similar sort of story, only a few seasons, mid-60s, but it carried on being successful.
Yeah,
you know, the films started to get made in sort of late 70s and all the way through the 80s, so it never really went away. Batman went away.
Yeah.
Other than reruns of the old TV show, there was nothing new for decades until this movie came out. Well, saying that, there was one game.
There were two games.
Yeah, the isometric thing.
Batman, or Batman, there was a space in between, both on the cover and on the loading screen.
Yeah, because it didn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there was no one to ask.
Right?
How do you spell it? I don't know.
It's Batman. I guess.
Who cares? It's only Batman. That's right. Can you imagine a world where someone would be making a Batman product and it'd just be literally a case of, oh, I want to make a Batman game. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, could you try making a Batman game today? The negotiation about getting the rights alone would be a nightmare.
But the thing is, I wonder how lucky Ocean might have got with that. I couldn't find this anywhere, whether it actually happened or not. But Batman came out in 1986.
Yeah.
And Batman, the movie, the game, came out at the end of 1989. Mm-hmm. And you just wonder, because you're right, in 1986, they would have phoned up DC and go, can we make a Batman game? They're going, all right.
Yeah.
Crack on, do what you want.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, they got the biggest property in the world.
Yeah.
You wonder how lucky they got, whether they happened to get those rights when they were dirt cheap and still have them 3 years later.
It happens quite often, doesn't it? Where somebody owns the rights to something and does nothing with it. And it just sits there. And if somebody new buys the rights, makes one of the biggest properties out there, whether it's a film or a game or book.
And there's the horrible practice of patent trolling as well, isn't there? Where there was a guy had the rights to the word edge in a video game title, and every game that came out that tried to have the word edge in it, he tried to sue them. There's a word for that guy. We're not going to use it because apparently YouTube don't like it. So they made Batman. It's just called Batman. Yep. This is how much of an impact Batman had in the UK in 1986. Nobody even had made a game before. Apparently there was one attempt to make a game before, actually.
I'm surprised there was never an Atari 2600 game that got buried in the desert. Alongside E.T. and some bloke who opened one of the Vegas casinos.
It's a weird game, isn't it?
Yes, it's very odd.
Very of its time.
It was odd when it came out. I do remember having it. I had it on the Amstrad. So when you first said about let's do Batman, I thought, it means the Amstrad game, the weird isometric one. Had you ever actually played it before this?
Yeah, so I didn't have it at the time on the Spectrum. Those sorts of games were quite common on the Spectrum.
Yeah.
They're isometric games for people who don't know them. Basically, they are screen by screen. So they don't scroll at all, but they're presented 45 degrees isometrically. So you sort of walk in from one door at one corner of the screen and walk out another, and they're presented almost like a little diorama in the middle of the screen. They don't rotate or anything like that. And I think perhaps the Spectrum was just quite good at handling that kind of staticness.
Yeah, I think it's because there's no element on screen that's moving other than your character and possibly one or two other things in the room.
Yeah.
It's very light on processing.
And because of that isometric view, you can see almost every point you need to at the same time, so you don't need to move around. And yeah, because the Spectrum was both the lowest power and the most popular computer out there, a lot of games were built with that in mind. But yeah, it's basically your Batman, and you wander around what is ostensibly the Batcave trying to find parts of the Batcraft, while a lot of creatures of completely random origin
nothing to do with Batman.
And it's a bit of a theme with Batman games, but we'll come back to that later on. But yes, they're not, the characters aren't the Penguin, they're not the Joker, they're not they're not even the budget ones like the fucking Clockmaker or whatever his name was. All those shitty, and they're just some random characters.
They're not even characters, they're just things a lot of the time, aren't they?
Yes, and that's very much of the era, isn't it?
Anthropomorphic cushion. for whatever reason. Yeah, that'll do. Chuck it in there.
A pogo jumping umbrella or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy who made it as he was making a clone of. There's a very famous game in this isometric one called Saberwolf.
I remember that.
And he was trying to make a clone of that. I'm pretty sure it was Saberwolf. And he had the game and the code and all that, and it was all working, and then basically got handed the Batman license.
Yeah.
And so added as the playable character. I mean, the most brilliant little pixelated version of Adam West you have ever seen. I love it. I mean, you look at that little guy.
Yeah.
That's Adam West. Right, it doesn't matter. The box art is very much in the 70s, quite serious Batman comic style, very, what do they call it, lantern jawed, and that whole thing it's got going on. I'm just looking at it for inspiration here, and it is very much Batman. He's dark, he's serious, and then you start the game, and it starts with the theme from the TV show.
Yep, I noticed that. And then you're a cute, chibi little Batman,
little Adam West. Bouncing around the Batcave fighting weird fucking monsters.
Well, no, you're not fighting.
No, there is no fighting.
You do nothing.
That's not true. It's a puzzle game.
You walk around and you jump.
You know what it is, essentially?
It's a pacifist game.
Well, it is, but it's also it's kind of a Metroidvania game.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit sort of stealthy as well.
I guess you're
not actually hiding in terms of like, sort of AI enemies that may or may not be aware of you, but the avoidance and learning patterns and patrols and things like that. Yeah, it's very much sort of the genesis of stealth games.
No, it's not a bad shout. But I think the fact is there are over 140 screens apparently in Batman. I must have seen about 20 of them because it's
I've
hard.
Not finished it.
It's very hard.
It is legendary from the time when it came out. There are some bits in the game where you literally have to be 1 pixel moving between things.
Yeah.
So your jumps that you make, you have to be exact.
Yeah.
You have to take off from the exact point and land on the exact point.
But this is the thing. For the first, I don't know, half a dozen screens, you can't jump.
Nope.
Because you've not picked up the boots yet.
Yep. I know.
And that, to me, that's Metroidvania. So you're unable to traverse certain things until you've picked up something else. There's a bag as well that lets you take items from one screen to the next. And until that point, you can't. You can't pick up a thing and take it to another part of the level.
Yeah.
Until you've got the bag. That's a Metroidvania. That's the essence of a Metroidvania. Which is, a Japanese genre that was probably being developed at about the same time in NES Castlevania games. Or the original Metroid, I think.
I was going to say, when was Metroid?
I think the original Metroid was also 1986. Also feckin' hard and bloody, really difficult. For much the same reason. I'm trying to remember your way around the map. Oh, I've got this thing now. Where do I go and use it? That's exactly what Batman was.
Yeah, a big part of it is letting you go into an area that you can't actually get through.
Yeah.
And then saying to you, you got to go and get this thing and then come back. Yeah.
Which is, again, that's what Batman did. And it was called like a maze game, or it wasn't, that whole idea didn't really exist yet. And it's quite interesting that those very similar styles of game that are very similar happening completely opposite sides of the world before the internet, before these people would have been talking to each other exactly at the same time. There
would have been no way to share anything back then.
No. But yes, I think, to me, personally, I look at Batman and think that's a great looking game for a retro game, for, when you look at, because, you look back at old games sometimes and you go, oh, fuck you, that's ugly.
Looking at you, Golden Axe.
I've only seen the Spectrum version of Batman, which is one colour, usually either blue and black or white and black.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did you have it on the Amstrad?
I did have it on the Amstrad.
More colour on that?
Yeah, I think so. In my mind, it's a lot of blues and yellows.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably just the majority of screens. But I did actually play it. I've got it on an Amstrad emulator and managed to get it running, which in itself was a task. Yeah, I won't go into it. But, no, it's quite fun, quite playable. And then I started to read about the remake that somebody had made. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Somebody's remade it. I think it was 2010, I think it was. Yeah, somebody remade it, and it's just gorgeous. You'll have to find it. You'll have to have a look at it.
Yeah, I will. That sounds like a great shout.
It's much better looking, but it's basically the original game, just done with a lot of love and a lot of time, clearly.
And hopefully a lot of checkpoints and saves.
I don't know how true to the original it is. I couldn't actually find it to play it, but it looks, taking what is basically an 8-bit Amstrad game and making it look like an Amiga game.
Wow,
that's the difference. It's so sort of, much more evolved.
Apparently it did come out on PC, but I assume that's some sort of DOS type situation, isn't it?
I don't think it's even what we would call a PC. There's an Amstrad computer called the PCW. It came out on that, and it came out on the MSX, which was a Sony home computer, which no one's ever had. I've never met someone who's even seen one.
I mean, so that's Batman.
We'll call it Batman 1.
Batman 1, 1986 it started.
Yeah.
This whole Batman video game thing. And then it went away for...
It was very, very well reviewed as well.
Yeah.
Crash gave it 93%. Sinclair User gave it 5 out of 5. As far as I remember, it was well liked.
The guy who made it went on to make Head Over Heels using the same engine.
Head Over Heels is a brilliant game.
There we go. I had a feeling you'd mentioned before you liked Head Over Heels. I've never played it because, weirdly, at the time, I'm fine with them now, but at the time, I hated these isometric games.
I can only ever remember playing a few, and Head Over Heels is by far and away the one. If you're going to play one of them, play that one. Because you play 2 characters. You switch between them.
Yes.
One can jump but moves really slowly, and the other one can run but can't jump. And eventually they meet up and link together to become this fast jumping thing. It's really cool.
Basically, Head Over Heels probably wouldn't exist without Batman.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's the game he made next, so obviously took what he learned on Batman and made that.
Absolutely. And he was until he got that Batman license, a bedroom coder.
Mm.
And then Batman went to bed for 2 years and came back as Batman the Caped Crusader.
Which was brilliant, and still is. I love this game.
It's stunning, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's so good.
And so far ahead of its time, people in the world might know of a Mega Drive game, Comics Zone. So yeah, Comics with an X Zone. People know this game as a game where you play through comic panels as you make your way through a game. It was on the Genesis. Batman the Caped Crusader did it first and did it brilliantly.
Yes, did a lot of things brilliantly.
For me, I played it for the first time day before yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
You never had it back in the day then?
No, I never had it. I knew it existed. I knew it was out there, but I never had it. And what got me about it was, it's like someone has said, this is how a text adventure game works.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Something like, what's a famous text adventure game? I can't even think.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
That'll do. Like that. This is how it works. So how do you turn that into a game where you're actually controlling a thing? And that's how it plays. You walk left to right or in and out. So you've got your northwest, east, south.
Yeah.
And you pick up a thing and then you take it somewhere else and you use the thing.
Yeah.
But this is all whilst the agency is there 100% like a side-scrolling action platformer.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have those moments where you get out into the world, don't you? And you beat people up and there's Catwoman there with her ridiculous boobs. I mean, I don't know what that guy who did that bit of pixel art was thinking, but by God.
I think I do.
And yeah, you get out there and you do fight and do stuff as well. But it is, I mean, fundamentally, that's cool. It's a puzzle game, isn't it? You're
Pick up a thing, take it to a thing, it unlocks something or does something that allows you to move on through the game.
Yeah.
Did you spot the little King Kong reference?
I don't think I did.
There's a bit when you get out, because you start off in the Batcave.
Yeah.
There's a lot to pick up in there. Then you go out onto the streets and you climb up onto the roof of a building. And in the background, there's sort of a skyline. And as you move along, the background scrolls along a bit. and it's got King Kong on the Empire State Building.
Oh, really?
in the far background. Lovely little thing. I probably never even saw it at the time. I was playing it earlier today and I thought, oh, that's a nice little touch.
That's fantastic.
Probably wouldn't be able to do it these days because of the rights.
Yeah, you'd get sued out of your fucking
Yeah.
ass, wouldn't you? So yeah, this again was home computers, wasn't it? It wasn't a console game.
Yeah, Spectrum, Amstrad, C64, ST Amiga. There was a DOS version, and again the MSX and GX 4000.
Yeah, wasn't that the failed
That's the Amstrad console.
Amstrad console, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one, yeah. I had a bit of a delve into this because it was completely new to me.
Mhm.
And so I knew it existed. I knew the idea of it and this whole thing.
Yeah.
So basically when you walk off the end of the screen or into and out of the screen, the new screen overlays on top of the previous one like a comics panel coming to life. And the hint for the screen or what you're trying to do is like a bubble, one of the square type text in the corner. So very much of a comic style, very, very coolly done, with obviously varying degrees of artistic merit depending on the system it was on. But apparently, when I was looking into it, as much as the Amiga and the ST version looked lovely, basically borderline impossible to play because it depletes your health so quickly that any sort of contact, any sort of anything.
Yeah.
I started watching the video playthrough. Every time this guy playing it there was an enemy on the screen, he got to a point where he kind of cornered them at the edge of the screen and hit them until they dropped what looked like a crisp packet.
All right.
And I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And he did it every time. I'm like, mate, this is boring. I'm trying to watch a playthrough and you're doing this every time. But this is basically health.
It's the only way to get through it.
It's the only way to get through the game is to spam every enemy for health by pinning them in the corner. So yeah, that looked horrific. And it wasn't like that. I played the Spectrum version for a bit and obviously the enemies are there, but you basically just ignore them. You can outrun them.
Yeah, you just sort of walk past them.
Yeah. You just kind of crack on with solving your puzzle. Occasionally they'll shoot and you have to duck. But which is down and fire confused the fucking life out of me for a while. That's an odd choice.
It took me about a minute to figure out how to climb up a ladder.
Yeah,
You have to sort of walk along and press up at the same time. Which on the emulator I'm playing was it Z and X for left and right? Okay, yeah, fine, I'll take that. And it was like colon and speech mark for up and down. It was horrible.
But yeah, that's a great game.
It was great. Well, that's a great games.
Yes.
Because it was two separate games.
Yeah. So the same gameplay, the same idea, the same concept, but basically two plots, I guess is the way to put it, isn't it?
Two stories.
Yeah.
It's like having two issues of a comic, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Bird in the Hand, which was the Penguin game, and Fate Worse Than Death, which was the Joker game.
So that's Fate spelled Fete.
Yes, like a village fate.
Yes.
It's the only fate I can think of. How English can you be?
I mean, what one English name for such an American, thing. But again, that is also something we sort of glossed over. Batman: The Cape Crusader also starts with the theme tune from the TV show.
Yeah, because there was no other version.
No, we're talking 1998. This is a year before the film come out, and you think that TV show must have been 64, 65.
Yeah.
And so in the UK, as far as we were concerned, Batman was that TV show. As I was saying before, that's what Batman was. He wasn't a comic, he wasn't a cartoon, he wasn't anything other than Adam West and Burt Ward camping the fuck out of it for 20 minutes.
As Cesar Romero refusing to paint his moustache, so they just paint his face white.
Burgess Meredith. I mean, these are proper actors. Burgess Meredith, Cesar Romero, proper actors.
Yeah. Wasn't Vincent Price in one of it as well?
Yeah, season 2, they started to get some sort of guest star type role.
Yeah.
So he may have been in that in the second season, possibly. Because Eartha Kitt was a big artist at the time.
Hugely popular.
Role as Catwoman. So yeah, I think it may have been. But let's not get back to that. But yeah, I only played one scenario. So the Joker's kidnapped Robin. Right, and I didn't finish it. Have you finished that scenario, either now or in the past?
I finished one of the games back in 1988. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it was the Joker one.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I can't even remember my own story.
So maybe we'll finally get a comment off a listener. So maybe somebody will finally tell me. Somebody pitch in on a format. I think the game is hinting hugely Robin is hidden somewhere in the Batcave rather than somewhere else out in the world. I think the game is hinting at that massively. So I want somebody to tell me that because, to be fair, I can't be bothered to complete the game. It's not easy. It's a very, very good game. Very stylish, very cool, very much not anything to do with Batman the movie. I mean, in an excellent coming together of things we love on this show. Basically, it was Ocean that made published, produced, whatever the word is, Batman the Cape Crusader and Batman. But outside of the UK, it was Data East for Batman the Cape Crusader, who are one of my favourite developers of all time. But they picked up the rights and put it out there, I guess, on Apple II. I'm looking at these, and PC. I guess that would have been the American releases.
Yeah, Apple, presumably. Amiga was an American computer.
Yes, it was, but it died in its arse in America, didn't it? It wasn't as popular.
Yeah, they didn't know what they had.
No, but the C64 was not deaf in America.
No.
It did okay over there, didn't it? Right, are you happy that we have given due praise to the wonderful Batman the Cape Crusader?
The Crepe Crusader?
The Cape Crusader, yeah, he was a big fan of pancakes.
I love the Crepe Crusader.
I have a superpower for making pancakes, and I'm going to refer to myself...
The Crepe Crusader.
Until now, I've referred to myself as the Pancake King, but from now on, it's going to be the Crepe Crusader.
Oh, dear. You need an apron. You need an apron with the Crepe Crusader.
The Crepe Crusader, yeah.
And a really badly hand-drawn Batman logo.
Right, anyway.
Just for a change, we digress.
Yeah. A year after the Cape Crusader, and again, it was comic format with the Batman TV show theme tune on it. Probably less than a year later, Batman the movie, the game, came out, because the Ocean home computer games were the only version of the Batman games to come out the same year the film released.
Yeah. The NES version did come out in Japan like December 22nd, 89. So technically,
yeah,
it did manage to creep out, but not here until September of the next year.
Yeah. So this was Batman : the movie : the game. How do you feel about this game?
This was brilliant. I love this game. I had it on the Amstrad, possibly before I'd seen the film. I can't remember.
I think so. I think I had it on the Spectrum before I'd seen the film as well.
Yeah, I think I need to look up when Batman got released in the UK.
I think it made it out in time for Christmas '89.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I went to cinema to see it for my birthday, which is at late December.
Yeah.
So that probably would be about right then.
So I imagine it came out some in America and Christmas in the UK.
No, August the 11th, 1989, UK.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I can't have seen it for my birthday then.
Well, you could have done. Just you waited 3 months, because it would have been on still. Because films, again, this is another thing. Films stayed at the cinema for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Bond films used to show for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Because they weren't on TV for 2 years. Different times, Dave. Those different times. Simpler times.
Yeah.
Shit times.
Shit times where you didn't know if we were going to die in a nuclear war any day. August 89, I think that's within about a month or so of the Berlin Wall coming down.
No, I think Batman's a bigger cultural event.
Certainly more important to people outside Germany.
Well, yeah.
Bloody hell. I'm just looking at the box office numbers of it as well. Estimated budget of $35 million. Worldwide gross, $400 million.
Jesus Christ.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's just box office. That doesn't include video sales, which would have come after it, all the merchandising stuff.
You got 2 years of rental as well. I say I keep punting 2 years around as a number. It may be less, it may be more, I don't know. But there was different markets. It was cinema and then rental, and then you could buy it, and then it was eventually on TV.
Yeah.
And it was years between these things. It wasn't months, it wasn't weeks like it is now. So it was properly years. I remember I was at Jack Bland's house, and I would have gone round Jack Bland's house after school at Bunyan, so upper school. I would have gone round his house afterwards to play on his Mega Drive. Maybe I'm putting two memories together, but I remember...
At our age.
Yeah. A memory portmanteau.
Yeah.
But I definitely, at one time or another, in my memory, it's this time, played Revenge of Shinobi.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
Which has an unlicensed, on the Japanese version, it's got an unlicensed Batman as one of the enemies.
Really?
The Japanese version's got an unlicensed Batman, unlicensed Spider-Man. I think there's another one as well that escaped me at the time, but they don't exist outside of the very earliest Japanese releases of that game.
Mm.
And so Jack would have had a Japanese Genesis for that on.
I've just thought what the other one is. You fight a boss that's Mechagodzilla.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely, yes, that's right. So yeah, and Jack had that, so I would have seen that. But also, and whether it was the same day or, I'm portmanteauing two memories together, his pirate video dealer basically turned up at his house.
You say it like it was unique to Jack. Everybody had a pirate video dealer.
Yeah, let's make this clear. Everybody knew a guy who would get you a pirate video.
Yeah, the suitcase of videos.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you've ever seen footage from a VHS and you think it looks shit, imagine what a pirate version of that VHS looked like. And then imagine it's Batman, which is 90% black.
Yeah.
Right? And then imagine trying to watch it on a 14-inch CRT TV. That's what happened. This guy come round and Jack, I think, rented it. I don't think he even bought it. I think he rented off this guy, Batman.
Yeah.
And we started watching it. And obviously it's a fantastic movie. So I was into it. And then I had to go home. And I was livid. I remember being like absolutely furious that I had to go home and stop watching this film. And now I want to talk about the film some more. And I've just segued myself, so I will. Mm-hmm. Right? There are versions of Batman that have come since that people believe are the best Batman, the best superhero film. Some people probably even think that The Dark Knight's the best film ever made. You couldn't be more wrong. Opinions are wonderful things. My opinion about your opinion is that you couldn't be more wrong. That Christopher Nolan is a terrible filmmaker and his Batman films are terrible.
And I thought I was going to get shit on this one.
He can't direct action. Everything he does has got no pace to it. It's got no energy to it. He can't do it. He's a terrible filmmaker. And he is the king of over exposition. He will tell you what is happening as it is happening, before it is happening, and after it has happened, just in case you missed it. Which is why all these films are so fucking long and so fucking boring.
With the exception of Memento, the exception that proves the rule.
Fabulous film. Absolutely fabulous film. So there's this scene. I don't care about spoilers for The Dark Knight because it's shit and I don't care if I spoil it for you. But there's this scene where the Joker kills a guy in an office by slamming his head onto a pencil. He calls it the disappearing pencil trick.
Yeah.
So he balances a pencil on its end, so it's pointy end up, and basically slams a guy's head onto it and kills him with the pencil. And this is the thing that people, certainly at the time, I don't know if they still do, talked about how this film was more brutal and more, violent than any of the other campy versions of Batman that came before it, right? In the 1989 Batman film, the Joker tortures his own girlfriend to the point that she throws herself off a building because he has melted her face. How is killing somebody with a pencil more brutal and violent than that? People were so surface orientated. They look at the makeup and the whole thing of it, and that's all they see. They don't see the fact that this is a film about two psychopaths going at it. That's what Batman 1989 is about.
Two mental cases.
Yeah, absolutely. They're both completely fucking broken human beings. Tim Burton, that's the basis of his film. And obviously, it's a 12/15 rated film, so he doesn't come out and say it. But it's 100% what that film is about. And so, yeah, you can shove your Dark Knight up your ass. I haven't had a good rant for ages.
No, it's been a while. When was the last Gen 7 reference?
Of that film and the massive marketing sway that came with it, obviously the Ocean, Batman, the movie, the video game came out. And this was, did you have it on the Amstrad?
Yes, yeah. Played it on the Amiga as well, I think.
Did you?
Yeah.
I coveted the Amiga version.
Why? Because it was playable.
I mean, the C64 version isn't great. It's got some horrible hit detection that really gets in the way of it working. And the artwork for Batman, the sprite for Batman is really nice.
Yeah.
And the sprites for everybody else, like everybody else, absolute shite. Yeah, like really, like often just 2 colours, like skin and clothes, and that's it. Really bad. But Batman on the Spectrum, brilliant. Plays wonderfully. Plays really, really great. But there's a Batmobile and a Batwing level. And they're both sort of side-on, sort of isometric.
Whereas the Amiga version is behind the car and behind
using
the
Chase HQ engine.
Yeah, much better.
Just seeing screenshots of that when I was a kid, I was like, you fuckers. I want to play that. When I finally got an Amiga, only, relatively recently, it was the first game I bought.
Well, I don't know if you remember or if you've ever read about it, but Batman, the movie, the game, was a bundle that sold the Amiga.
Yeah.
So everyone who had Amiga had that game.
Yeah.
For a good few years. I don't think anything else was sold as a bundle with it.
I've watched a couple of videos and I can't remember the details now, but it was a huge deal to get that to be the case. Somebody made a lot of effort to make it happen, and it was, a massive win for both sides, for both Warner Brothers and Ocean. So yeah, as a game, for those who haven't played it, Ocean were quite, their sort of niche at this time was to take a license and create games out of it, but levels would be different. So every other level would do something different. They did the Robocop game, they did the Untouchables game. And so Batman, the first level was you were exploring the Axis chemical factory looking for Jack Napier. And then level 2 was the Batmobile level. And then level 3...
Level 3 might be the ingredient matching thing.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. So this is what I mean.
Unless that comes later.
The driving game, I think, was against the clock, and you had to get back to the Batcave. This is what these games were so good at. What Ocean were great at was taking these concepts and ideas from a film and building levels and gameplay around them. So this entire level was built around that one bit in the film that happens once for about 20 seconds, where he turns a corner really quickly by firing his grappling hook at the lamppost.
Yeah.
Which every kid in the world, when they saw that back in 89, was like, oh, that's so fucking cool.
Every adult who saw that was oh, that's fucking cool.
So yeah, Ocean built the entire level around this. So the way to beat this level quickly was to, when it said there's a corner coming up, hit your grappling hook, get in the right place, spin around the corner without losing any pace. It was fantastic.
Well, it had the thing as well, didn't it? If you missed that corner, you'd have to take the next corner. So it was like playing against an angry GPS. Like your car sat there saying, no, left.
There was no Guggenheim Museum level, which appears in other versions of the game.
I was going to say, it's in the arcade game.
Yeah, and it's in the Game Boy game. We'll come back to all these in a bit.
Yeah. This is the weird thing, isn't it? Like the different formats, they're different games.
Yeah. I
didn't realise that. I just assumed it was all the same game on a different format.
Apparently it was deliberate. I mean, the Ocean ones were in and of themselves and mostly UK, Europe focused. But yeah, so I think, because there's normally 5 levels in these Ocean games, so it was probably Axis Chemical, Batmobile, the puzzle thing where you have to figure out the combination of chemicals that the Joker's putting in things.
Then the Batwing.
The Batwing where you're cutting the balloons. And then...
the Cathedral. Must be. Yeah.
And what I didn't realise, or had forgotten, I think more didn't even realise at the time. So obviously it plays much like the first level. On the Spectrum version, when you kill the Joker, because you do kill the Joker, sorry, Bat purists, fuck that guy, he falls from his helicopter ladder all the way to the ground. And you see it scrolls down the height of the level, apparently the sort of thing, and you don't even consider it now, do you? But apparently at the time, people were like, wow, that's incredible. How have they just shown all that? And it is, I don't remember it at the time, as I say, but it sounds really impressive even thinking about it, because it wasn't the sort of thing that you even considered. But one of the things that is interesting considering the other version of this game, at no point was there a boss battle.
No. You
have to hit Jack Napier into the vat of chemicals.
Yeah, but it's not a fight, is it? It's literally you punch him once.
Yeah. You have to hit your batarang at an angle, don't you? So you think, because you've got batarangs and you've got your grapple, and when you come to the Joker, he's up the ladder, so you have to fire your grapple at him, not your batarangs.
Ah, right.
And this is the sort of thing that the first time you get to him as boss, you're like, how do I do that? Just the simplest of fucking things when you think about it now. But you're just like, I don't get it. He's up high. How do I hit him? No, there's not a boss battle in the entire game at any point, which I think is fascinating considering, I think, the other versions of the game, particularly, the NES, Genesis, Mega Drive, whatever you want to call it, Game Boy versions of it, the Sunsoft versions, basically.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it, I think.
Yeah. Have you played any of those?
I haven't. I've only seen them. I've seen videos of them. Varying degrees of quality, I think, is the best way to describe that.
Did you watch any of the Game Boy version?
Yes, I did.
Did you have the sound up?
I think so.
It has the best music. Full stop.
Okay.
Like Mozart, fuck off. No, but seriously, I mean, and they are sort of versions of the NES music as well, but something about the way they're done on the Game Boy. There are two tunes in particular that I had this game when I had my Game Boy, when it was current, so the 90s, early 90s. And I still know those two tunes. I can do them from start to finish.
You can do them.
And if I did, I would then be doing them for the rest of the day because they're that fucking catchy. You cannot get them out of your head. They're brilliant. And it's a great little game as well. It's very much the NES and the Game Boy versions. I think basically the Sunsoft versions are either they were games in production that got turned into Batman games.
Yeah.
Or they were Batman games where they just didn't give a fuck about Batman lore and just said, you're going to shoot whoever you fucking want, mate.
Clockwork Rabbits, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Game Boy game I adore. I played it to death at the time. I could pick it up and probably play it from start to finish now. It didn't have any Batmobile levels. It had Batwing, which was pretty cool. Basically a side-scrolling shooter.
Yeah.
Considering what the Game Boy was and how basic it was when it started, this is the console that was a Tetris machine for millions of people. You get batarangs and you collect more and more of them, so you can fire one and then you pick up two or three and they fire. But they fire out across the screen and then they come back to you. But they rotate as they do it on their Y-axis.
Yeah.
And this happens in about 4 pixels square. And it looks beautiful. It's such a wonderfully created game. There's something very special about Batman and on the Game Boy and the way it's made. Batman, the video game. The NES version is apparently brutally hard. I don't think there was ever a SNES version.
No, I thought it was quite strange.
Yeah, it's an odd one.
Could have been a licensing thing.
Maybe they thought it was too violent, so they wouldn't publish it. Because this was very much the era of SNES and the Nintendo basically being as family friendly as humanly possible, wasn't it?
It's weird because the next game they brought out, Batman Return of the Joker, was only on the NES as well.
Yeah, and apparently there was a SNES version that got cancelled and it was basically finished.
All right.
Batman Return of the Joker, which is not anything to do with Batman Returns. I mean, obviously, really, other than the way it's got returned it. It's one of the best looking games I've seen on the NES.
I did, yeah. I paid a bit of attention to this one for a change. Most NES games passed me by, but this did look genuinely quite playable.
Yeah. In case you haven't listened to any of our previous, what are we up to? 16, 17 podcasts now?
Yeah, something like that.
Somehow, us two fuckwits have managed to pull together that much content. We don't have a lot of love for the NES, but that looks genuine. Apparently it's really hard, but it looks really good. A really smart looking game that looks like it plays nicely. It looks like it's borderline Batman Return of the Joker. Like if somebody told me it was a 16-bit game, I'd believe them.
It's like late 8-bit, early 16-bit, isn't it? There's a sort of crossover period where developers were starting to get really good with those systems.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for a new system to get up to that kind of level of quality. So there's almost a crossover between the two generations. So
you didn't have it? Did Batman, the video game, did you have any on your Mega Drive? Is probably the question.
No, I can't remember ever playing it on the Mega Drive. It was probably one of those cases where I didn't feel the need to buy it on the Mega Drive because I'd had it on the Amstrad. So I basically went from the Amstrad to the Mega Drive. Yeah, and you wouldn't have known because it was basically just called Batman. It was a completely different game. Exactly. And I'd probably had a mate who had it on the Amiga. Yes. So I probably would have thought it's just going to be the Amiga version. There's no point buying it. Also, it's very, very firmly in the area of not being able to ever buy games myself because I was 12
Yeah.
and had no money. So you'd get bought a game that you didn't want, didn't ask for, but would sometimes turn out to be good. And then every now and then you'd actually get to pick one. And then once a year on your birthday, be able to buy one or two.
I think this is why I had the Spectrum for so long. The Spectrum had a long life for machines at the time, but compared to what they go on now, the Spectrum was around for
12 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
And so I kept it because budget games existed, and £2 was nothing. Well, not nothing, but it was your pocket money at worst, or a fraction of your pocket money at the end of that time. So yeah, I just stuck with the Spectrum. Other than my brother's Commodores, I went from the Spectrum to the SNES. It was a huge leap up.
Yeah, but I had friends who had one friend who had an ST, one friend who had an Amiga.
Yeah,
so I did get to play on 16-bit systems for quite a while without having to own one.
Did you ever see or play the arcade game of Batman?
I think I did.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do have a memory of playing it. I'm not sure where. I don't think it was like any local arcades. It must have been on holiday.
I've never seen it, so it can't have been any of the Bedford arcades.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely have never seen it. I didn't even know it existed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Atari, isn't it? I don't know how these licenses figure themselves out, but the arcade game was made by Atari.
It was made by Atari, but it was also, I think it was published or distributed by Atari because Namco distributed it in Japan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure what went on there.
Other than some nice effects and things, like some nice scrolling and stuff, it doesn't look very good.
No, I played it on MAME. It's awful.
Okay.
It's genuinely bad. It's not good at all.
I mean, which I think leaves us with just one version to talk about.
Well, no, I will say this about the arcade version. You ever played Rolling Thunder?
Yeah.
It's a lot like Rolling Thunder, but not as good. We've talked before about Crime City, which is a spin-off from Chase HQ. It's very similar to that. Bastard hard, blindsides you with enemies that you can't react to fast enough. There's people pop out of doors.
Yeah.
That's where the Rolling Thunder thing comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not very good.
There's a PC Engine game version of Batman. You mentioned earlier how every version of Batman is different to the others. And apparently that's why this version of Batman, the movie, the game, exists. Came out nearly a year after the film came out. I thought, or maybe even more than that. Only in Japan, so it was never on the TurboGrafx 16. It's only on the PC Engine.
It's over a year, October 1990.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and it's a maze game, top-down maze game, completely different to all the other versions. A little bit weird, and there's something about it. I don't own it, my PC Engine, because out of nowhere, what does it go on eBay for? Moment. £150 and it goes for eBay without a box. So yeah, this game is expensive, so I've never played it, but you try to complete a task whilst there are enemies in the maze. You're walking around. I only know this from videos, but brilliantly, and I say brilliantly under advisement because it's often a thing that people, from what I've seen on videos, really dislike about it. I think it sounds awesome. You have to clean the graffiti off the paintings in the Guggenheim Museum.
Excellent.
So you're Batman and you're wandering around this maze, Batman, and it's all, and then you stop and get your little cloth out and fucking love it. I think that's amazing. That's my sort of thing.
One thing you have failed to mention is that this Batman game on the PC Engine is ostensibly a hybrid of Pac-Man and Bomberman. When I was watching it, it gave me Bomberman sort of vibes.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that. There's a lot more detail than that. And it's a much more advanced.
But that's the angle. The angle of view is like a sort of top-down,
weirdly
isometric.
Yeah, sort of isometric on two planes. Anyway, that this is going to get too complicated. But yes, Pac-Man, Bomberman, that kind of vibe. But you're Batman walking around, animated, cleaning paintings because. Fucking love it. So yeah, hopefully one day in my life I will own a copy of that. I just think it sounds brilliant, and the cutscenes in that version of the game are spectacular.
Yeah.
Really nicely designed, really nice played. It does the bit in one of the cutscenes, in the film, that really cool bit where the Batwing goes in front of the moon and then falls off.
Yes.
That's in one of the cutscenes. It knows what's cool. That game, it really does. It just knows what's great. It's Sunsoft again. But yeah, apparently it's one of those things where they wanted every version of Batman to be different on every machine. So the PC Engine ended up with this weird Bomberman thing. And that's it, really. That's it for Batman the movie, the game.
Batman the movie, the games.
Which is what we're here to talk about. And I didn't realise until I started looking into it that I haven't played many of the others. After that,
I'm thankful I haven't played many of the others.
Yes. So I think of all those games, we did the numbers earlier, that happened between Batman the movie, the game, and Arkham. I think I've played The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the SNES, Batman Returns on the Lynx, and I think that might be it. I don't think I played any of the others, because The Adventures of Batman and Robin was based on Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
There was a Mega Drive game as well that was called The Adventures of Batman and Robin, but it was a completely different game. Did you have that?
No. After the Batman Animated Series, which I remember you having on the SNES, which came out in 93, I didn't play a Batman game until Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
I'm just looking down this list, and I'm pretty sure I've never played any of these.
I'm with you. I'm doing the same thing. I think I may have played Catwoman on the Game Boy Color on an emulator out of curiosity. Because it was completely separate to my whole video game and thing. I did get into comics for a while. And that era of Catwoman was a comic that I picked up. And so the box art and the character design for that game were based on that era. So I think I must have played that out of curiosity. And it wasn't terrible, but it was nothing. I couldn't even tell you what it was. I just remember it wasn't shit. It wasn't great. It was just some game. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I talked about the Wii game earlier.
That's the Wii DS one, Brave and the Bold.
I think I played that before I played Arkham City, because there's only like less than a year between the two releases. So I just think it just happened that way around for me personally. But yeah, I just didn't. It just went away again. Really, didn't it? The film happened and then Batman went away again.
Well, the thing is, you had Batman the movie came out, really, really good. All the hype, all the the games that came out based on that, all the merchandise. Batman Returns came out, brilliant film again, really good. And then Batman Forever came out, and I'd say a good 50% of the people who had got into Batman over those last sort of 4 years or so started to walk away. Then Batman and Robin came out, and everyone else walked away.
So I think Batman Returns, as much as you and me clearly both like it, I like Batman Returns a lot. But I think even at that point, people were like, that's nowhere near as good as the first film. That's compared to Batman, that's not what people wanted. It was more Tim Burton. Set at Christmas for one, which is Tim Burton 101, isn't it? 4 different plots going on at the same time. It's very much not as neat and as crowd pleasing a film as Batman.
Yeah.
So I think that started to turn the tide. If you take them as a trilogy, right, you've got Batman, which is amazing. And then you've got Batman Returns, which is sort of the weird middle child. And then the third film is where it's either shit or bust. You're either going to bring everyone round and go, do you know what? That's a good trilogy of films. Or you're going to end up with Batman Forever.
Say what you will about Batman Forever. I loved Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer is a wonderful, wonderful guy. I don't think he's been bad in anything ever.
I don't know about that.
I think he may have been in bad things, but I don't think he's been bad in things.
I don't know. The Island of Dr. Moreau was pretty shit.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh, I don't.
For anybody in the world who's never seen it, the film Top Secret, stop listening to this podcast right now and go and watch Top Secret.
Good luck finding it.
Well, I guess so.
It might be hard to find.
Yeah, imagine a film set in World War II about an American spy infiltrating something. It doesn't really matter. But in the style of Airplane.
I was going to say, directed by and written by the people who made Airplane.
Yeah. Go away and watch it. It's fucking brilliant. It's hilarious. And it's got some banging tunes on it as well.
It's also, hasn't it got Omar Sharif in it?
It does have Omar Sharif in it. Yep. And Peter Cushing.
Oh my God.
It's stupendously good. Go away and watch that. That's the best sidebar we've ever done on this podcast. From Batman to Top Secret. Go and watch Top Secret. But the whole Batman thing, the quality of everything Batman started to drop, didn't it? With the exception of the animated series.
Which you were a huge fan of, weren't you?
I adored
really liked it.
The visual style of it won me over before anything happened. And what happened was usually very well written, surprisingly grown up for a TV show at the time. I mean, as you alluded to earlier, we're used to now cartoons for grown-ups. Very much not the case in 1992, 93. That wasn't a thing that existed. And so Batman, the animated series, having some very grown-up themes about death, about redemption, about just amazing.
Depression, suicide.
Yeah, all there. So yeah, Bruce Timm, he's just done a new Batman series. Batman Caped Crusader is what it's called, weirdly. To bring us full circle, it's not the Caped Crusader, it's just Batman Caped Crusader, which is a great show. Watch that as well. I think it's because the animated series was like 60 episodes a season, wasn't it? Some nuts like that. But this is like 10, and well worth watching. It kind of takes a different spin of it. What it does, because it's the first season of this new show, there's a lot of origin stories. A really, really great Harley Quinn origin story, completely new, completely away from...
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there are purists that hate it. But to me, I love a new take, and I think it's a fantastic take on that character and that character's origin.
I thought they did it really, really well in Arkham Asylum with the audio logs.
Yeah.
Remember that? Where she starts off as just a nurse and she's interviewing the Joker, and then you start to hear it in her voice. She's getting a bit more and more drawn in and starts to go batshit crazy.
Don't think this is spoilers, but in this new Batman Caped Crusader cartoon, her origin has nothing to do with the Joker at all. I think it's a really interesting way of doing it, and new and different. And I like new and different. And while we're talking about it, the Harley Quinn animated series is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Honestly, so fucking funny. Like from start to finish, every episode, fucking hilarious. Everybody go and watch that as well. And again, completely not tied to anything, not tied to the films, not tied to any of the DC films. It's a completely separate product to all that. I think they're up to 6. I think the next season will be the 6th or the 5th.
Wasn't Harley Quinn as a character invented for the animated series?
Oh, really?
Cool. I thought I'd read that somewhere.
So while we're on this, the Adventures of Batman and Robin, as the game is called, there's only one game called Batman the Animated Series, and it's on the Game Boy, and I've never played it, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's on the Game Boy, and it's Batman the Animated Series. I've never played it.
I was going to say, how have you never picked that up?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's passed me by. But the Adventures of Batman and Robin, both versions, the SNES and the Mega Drive version, were Batman the Animated Series. In look and delivery and all that sort of thing. I don't know about the Genesis version, I never played it, but the SNES version was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, beautiful. Looked exactly like the cartoon, the art style and all that. But it did that thing that the Ocean games did, where every level played a bit different. I don't even know what else to say other than it looked great. It played great. All the Bat villains were in it. Poison Ivy, Catwoman, they're all in it. And they're all there and doing their thing. And it's a very, very, very good game. I think it's quite expensive on the SNES, or it certainly used to be.
I can remember exactly one thing from that game. It's during the Riddler section. You get asked questions, don't you?
Yeah.
Like trick questions. And one of them is what's the shortest distance between two places? And it's a curved line rather than a straight line, because it's over the curvature of the earth. That's the only thing I ever remember about that game. I possibly never even played it. You probably showed it to me once.
Yeah, it's one of those games that when I traded my SNES, I regret trading, because I don't know, it's probably not quite as expensive because the bubbles burst a little bit, but there was a time when it was going for over 100 quid a copy, and it's such a fantastic game. Oh yeah, I guess that's it. We've done games, we've done films, we've done the work. Oh, let's a quick mention of the Robert Pattinson film. That's just like a film that never even existed.
I haven't seen it.
No,
yet.
I tell you what, you might as well have done, because I have seen it. And it's had exactly the same impact on me as you not seeing it has had on you.
It's getting a sequel, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
and a spin-off TV series.
Of course it is. It's just the way of the world, isn't it? These are just products, aren't they? We've done a lot. We've done games, we've done cartoons, and we've done films. Yep. So let's do drinks.
Okay. Do you want to go first with the drinks?
Yeah, do you know what? I think I will. So, it's quite an obvious one. There's nothing clever in it. A little bit on the nose, I guess, is what we say. But there is a drink out there, a couple of different versions out there in the world. Not in its original form on Difford's Guide, actually, but it's out there in the world, and it's the Gotham Martini.
Ah,
right.
Okay.
Straight in there. There is a Gotham cocktail, which is a different drink. I can't remember what it's got in it, but I didn't have it, so I didn't do that. The Gotham Martini, as with all good martinis, starts with a double shot of vodka.
The classic ingredient is vodka, isn't it?
Yeah, so a martini, it can be as little as vodka and vermouth of some description, and that's it. So sort of martinis tend to be a variation on that. They've become a bit naff. There's the apple teeny and all that sort of thing, and it's become a bit of a naff thing, but they're actually sort of in their genesis one of the pure sort of cocktail, not pure, what's the word? The classic, a real sort of simple classic cocktail, really delicious thing. And so the Gotham, as I found it, there's a few different versions of it, but it tended to be a double shot of vodka and then some sambuca and some blackberry liqueur. And when it comes to sambuca is an aniseed flavour drink. I've probably just told every single one of our 22 listeners something they already knew, but sambuca is aniseed flavour. But then there's three levels of aniseed flavoured drinks. There's Sambuca, which is what they set on fire in shit nightclubs in Cavos or something. Mm-hmm. And then there's Pernod, which is what French students snort. And then there's Absinthe, which is the absolute fucking king of aniseed.
Which is what French poets get stoned on.
Yeah.
And Kylie Minogue appears out of nowhere.
And the price of those three things goes up accordingly as well. Sambuca is quite a basic aniseed flavoured spirit, and Pernod is nicer, but I don't think there's not much difference. But Absinthe has got a lot more about it, and it's got its reputation of just being this thing that people get hammered on very quickly. But it's actually a very nice, richly flavoured aniseed drink.
Well, it varies in quality as well, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
There are good ones, there are shit ones, similar to vodkas.
Apparently it's borderline impossible to get a decent absinthe in America. I don't know why, but apparently it's one of those things. I got a decent bottle in my cupboard, and I just thought, you know what? They're not the same thing. They're not interchangeable. You can't just go, this has got this much Sambuca in it, so I'm going to put this much absinthe in it, because for the most part, you're probably going to kill yourself. But also the flavour profiles are slightly different. So I thought, I'm going to riff on it for the first time ever in cocktail mode history. This is an original cocktail. This is what I am calling the Gotham City Martini. Taking it another level in. So we're taking 2 shots of vodka still. It's a martini, so you need good quality vodka. This is not your fucking Smirnoff Red. It's very spirit forward. So a double of that. And then give yourself a shot of blackberry liqueur. Creme de Mure is the best known one. I made my own creme de Mure a while ago. I've still got 2 bottles of it because I only know 2 cocktails that use it. And this is the third, so it's lasted forever. But it's a blackberry flavoured liqueur. Basically blackberries and vodka and sugar, I think, if I remember right. It was a long time ago. So double vodka, shot of that, and then half a shot of absinthe. So you're talking, basically, it's a 4-2-1 ratio cocktail.
4-4-2. 4-1-2-1-1.
And it's as simple as 4-2-1, vodka, creme de Mure, absinthe, shake him up over ice, strain him into a glass. Fucking lovely. Right. And I made it. Yeah. I made this with the ratios of vodka and blackberry liqueur and downed the absinthe a bit to sort of try and balance off the thing, and it wasn't as nice. I think I've improved this cocktail, is what I'm saying.
Of course you do.
I think me, who's got no fucking idea what he's doing and has just drunk a lot and talked a lot, has accidentally made a better version of the Gotham Martini, and I'm calling it the Gotham City Martini. If you log into the discerning drinkers part of Difford's Guide, again, I should point out, we are not sponsored by Difford's. Yet. He gets a mention every single episode, so any one of you millions of listeners can go, and if you log on to the discerning drinkers part, it's free, don't cost you a thing. You will see they do like users own cocktails, and you Google Gotham City Martini, you'll see those ingredients and instructions for making it there, but it is as basic as that. Vodka, creme de Mure, absinthe, 4-2-1, shake over ice, pour into a glass. And enjoy. And you will enjoy, because it's bloody lovely. Even my wife didn't hate it.
High praise.
High praise indeed.
So did you have to figure out the calorie count, or has that done it?
It's done it for you. It's quite clever. What is the calorie count of a Gotham City martini?
Quite high, actually.
I imagine it would be
271 calories.
Christ.
3.6 units of alcohol. That's the same as like 2 pints of lager.
Basically, vodka, blackberries and vodka, and absinthe.
Yeah.
What do you got for me then? What are you said you've got 2 again.
I always try and get 2 just on the off chance that you might accidentally pick the same one. So I started Billy Basic. What's the single most obvious cocktail I could pick to go with Batman? Several people this. We all said the same thing within about half a second of each other.
Was it?
The Dark and Stormy.
The Dark and Stormy.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same point, yeah.
Too easy. Far too easy.
But a lovely cocktail.
It is a nice cocktail. I do actually quite like it.
One of the most drinkable but still quite classy cocktails.
Yeah, I do like them. But I didn't go for that because I thought that's too easy. So I Googled around and I found quite a few Batman-themed cocktails. There's tons out there. There's a Batman cocktail book.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I did find a version of a Joker cocktail, which, first of all, it looked stunning. Got an amazing purple color to it, which is what I was really looking for. I was really looking for a bright, nice, dark purple, but it's also got a sort of mixture of green in the bottom of it. So it's got a nice look.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But I had to Google a couple of the ingredients.
Oh, okay.
You know, when you read something as an ingredient, think, oh, that's unusual.
Mm.
One of the ingredients of this cocktail is liquid chlorophyll, being the substance that plants
use to turn light into...
Turning sunlight into energy.
Yeah.
Right? I had to look up liquid chlorophyll. First of all, how? Second of all, why? But also, this is a drink that comes with a risk of killing you. Like, you can overdose on this and it will kill you.
Oh, wow.
There's loads of like health drinks and things made from it because it's seen as like a really good health thing to have. But in a concentrated form, if you have too much of it, you will die. So that kind of caught my eye.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smilex.
Yeah, go with a smile. The other ingredient I had to look up was butterfly pea tea.
Not butterfly urine tea.
No, it's blue tea. It's obviously been used in this for the colour.
Obviously. Because Curacao was like not on the table or something.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You could probably use Curacao quite easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful looking cocktail and probably not what I'm going to drink because the main ingredient is gin. I keep doing this. I find a great cocktail that looks amazing and then I realise it's made with gin.
Just honestly, Dave, you need to try a decent gin.
Yeah, maybe. But having said that, I have tried some gin liqueurs that are quite nice. There's a Palmer Violets one that's really, really nice.
That is not a sentence that belongs anywhere ever. And I might edit it out just for the fucking hell of it. Just chop it out so it's really obvious that something's missing.
So yeah, this is 2 ounces of gin infused with mulling spices.
As you do.
3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of lime cordial, half an ounce of cinnamon syrup, 5 drops of liquid chlorophyll, and top it off with butterfly pea tea. But I'll put the link on the thing. It looks great, really nice purple and then sort of dark green at the bottom of it.
Yeah, the link will be in the description. Whatever you listen to us on, the description will appear and it will say Dave's Cocktails. He'll be able to take a gander at this.
Looks fantastic. Can't guarantee what it tastes like.
Just bizarre ingredients.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to die of an overdose of liquid chlorophyll just to find out what it tastes like. I'm pretty sure you won't die.
That's a seal of approval. I'm pretty sure you won't die. We're talking about, again, Batman, the movie, the game. And you've done a Joker cocktail that could kill you. It's absolutely perfect.
That's what I the quote I had in mind was go with a smile.
Right, what are we doing next, Dave?
I'm just looking. I've been sort of idly tabbing through the lists as we've been speaking. Let's do Die Hard Trilogy.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, we mentioned it a little bit before, didn't we?
A while ago now, though, but yeah.
I remember at the time thinking I'd love to go back and play that again. Yeah, let's do Die Hard Trilogy on the PS1.
I fully expect you to hate it when you go back to it, but let's find out.
I probably will. Have you still got it? Can you still play it?
Yeah, I've got it. I can play it. I remember it looking janky at the time. So I am expecting you to despise it. So join us next time for Die Hard Trilogy. We'll talk about that game, its sequel, which neither of us have played yet, and we will, and some of the other weird spin-off games like Die Hard Arcade, which is called Dynamite Cop, I think, in other territories. So yeah, so we'll see you next time on Cocktail Mode, where alcohol, like gaming, is in our blood.